So hello everyone, by this change I would like to deliver my final exam project on English Poetry B. The title of this analysis is Female Representation in the 19th Century Behind the Soul's Beauty by Dante Rossetti. Before I jump to the analysis, let me introduce myself first. So my name is Arum Sari with my last student number is 090. Next, so this is the poems by Dante Gabriel Rossetti, Soul's Beauty. Under the arch of life, where love and death, terror and mystery guard her shrine, I saw. Beauty enthroned, and though her gaze dark cool, I draw it and as simply as breath. Hers are the eyes which over and beneath, the sky and sea bend on thee, which can draw by sea or sky or woman to one law, the allotted bondman of her palm and breath. This is the Lady Beauty, in whose price thy voice and handshake still, long known to thee by flying hair and fluttering hand. The beat following her daily of the heart and feet, how passionately and irretrievably, in what fond flight, how many ways and days. And next, the poet background. About poet background. Dante Gabriel Rossetti, or usually called Dante Rossetti. He was an artist with a magic hand and idea. He was born in London, England in 1828 and raised by her Italian godparents. At first, he really imagined being a painter when he was a child. Long for that, he worked as an apprentice painter in Fort Maddox Brown, expanding his knowledge about literature because he loves to read books. Apart from that, Rossetti became most well-known when he became one of the founders of Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood in 1848, and his purpose of the exhibition just because they didn't really like fine art conventions, rather they had the same passion for poetry. During the convention, she met a beautiful girl and became his wife, namely Elizabeth Eleanor. But her story was tragic because they lost a child and she murdered herself. And his wife was suicide, as I told before, and Rossetti buried himself with his manuscript of his poems. And next, the poem background. So actually, Soul's Beauty by Dante Rossetti tends to criticize society toward women. This poem, known as sonnet, is a variation on Petrarchan sonnet or Italian sonnet composed of an octave, two groups of 4 lines, rhyming A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A, and a set that 2 groups of 3 lines, rhyming C, D, C, D, C, D. Unlike a Shakespearean sonnet, the Italian sonnet doesn't close with a couplet, but the second half of the poem gives a resolution to the first. This particular sonnet, rather than giving an answer, resolves with a spiritual commitment to aestheticism as a religious obsession. This poem is kind of an idea that represents the beauty of all women in all aspects, such as the face, skin, brain, soul, hair, and so on. Actually, beauty is objective, but Dante tries to express his idea of beautiful women and how they can affect men. It implies a sexual desire in this poetry. And soul's beauty is the mystical beauty of the soul, described by a man for a man's idea of beauty, where soul's beauty is describing how beauty can entrance the male gaze and bring about destruction for the main coach in the female web of beauty. The figure of Lady Beauty is then a mystical character. He is described as residing under the arch of life where love and death. It is immediately clear that Dante wants beauty in all women forms and has a kind of religious message that is related to the manifestation of woman. So the next is about issue. After I reading this poem, I actually realized how Soul's Beauty depicts women in the 19th century era, since this poem was written in that time period. As I seen, it implies that women had a big role in society in that era. Rossetti tries to break the social norms and stereotypes that have haunted all women. Since an ideal woman in the late 19th century era was described as an obedient to any male, always proper and well behaved. The poetry has a main meaning that a woman should put herself and her own crown before serving a man. Because society has created negative stereotypes toward women. If only they didn't get same right. Rossetti's treatment of these categories calls for a special awareness as he seems to upset to the traditional perceptions, featuring his famed fatal character in positioning of future society associated with manlines rather than femininity, and yet making her an object of male desire. Regarding the religious tones that implies to this poetry, his aim was to portray women as they truly are, which is more complex than 19th century society allowed them to be. So we jump to the analysis or literary devices. Figurative language create comparison by linking the senses and the construct to abstract ideas. Through figurative language, orators usually use specific phrases in order to convey a complicated meaning, colorful writing, clarity, or evocative comparison. It uses an ordinary sentence to refer to something without directly stating it. So by this change, I will analyze what kind of figurative language that was used in this poem to illustrate the meaning of soul's beauty that depicted women in the late 19th century itself. So actually I use personification and simile. And personification here occurs when a thing or abstraction is represented as a person in literature or art. Also, a literal device that uses the non-literal use of language to convey concept in a relatable way. The word that contains a personification is beauty, as we can see on the second line of the poem, terror and mystery. Guard her shrine, I saw. The use of word guard for the terror and mystery is a kind of personification that Rossetti wants to explain. Also, he intended to describe about our life that considered by the dead, but he replaced the meaning of the dead to be beauty as it's written on the third line, beauty and turn, and though her gaze struck awe. The word beauty and turn here explain that beauty is more complex than the dead. Beauty is everything. Aside from that, the next personification is in the sixth line, the sky and the band on thee, which can throw. Rossetti depicted that nature also recognized that beauty is a great power. He said that beauty of woman is inviolable. So the next is simile. Simile is a feature of speech that compares two different things in an interesting way using the word like or as. To be simplified, simile is a feature of speech in which two essentially dissimilar objects or concepts are expressly compared with one to another. The soul beauty intends the beauty in life, as I state on the third line. I draw it in as simply as my breath. Someone that was described in the poem admits that beauty is the essential thing that could affect life and death. He also admits this term as simply as her breath, which is so easy to admit. Beauty is the most essential notion of the sonnet. So the conclusion here is I took 10 female representation in the late 19th century behind soul's beauty because as I read, Rossetti actually tends to criticize society toward women. It was described that women should be obedient to a man and well behaved, whereas Rossetti illustrates that women are more than that. The beauty of them is about life and death. Men should gaze under women because their soul's beauty can attract a man. So the language really support the topic and issues such as the land 1, 2, and 3 that sit under the arch of life where life and death. Terror and misery guard her shrine and soul. Beauty and turn, and through her gaze strike all. Those lines were categorized into figurative language, namely personification and symbol. And the next, so I use three references as you can see on the screen. And I think that's all for me. Thank you for listening to my presentation and thank you for your consideration. I hope you have a good day, stay healthy and stay safe.